Welcome back to the Money Hill, where we'll be recapping Atlanta Faze's momentous Major 2 victory in Boston, talking about other teams around the league and the details of their major, and discussing some wild roster changes around the league before diving into Major 3 qualifiers. I am, of course, your host, Scoot. I'm back with BMB, who has been a little bit AWOL on me for a minute, but we did have a great fill-in with Nikita, and apparently BMB does not have any special Valentine's Day plans because he's here recording with me. Absolute content farmer.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, honestly, Scoot, you're my Valentine.
I mean,
I love that you're I love that you're showing up with a red hoodie. Got the red on the background. You know, you're setting the mood, and I like it. Look, Major 2, fantastic. It's great to see Faze come back and get a victory. It's been a minute, right? Like, don't sleep on the fact it's been a minute for those guys. Fantastic job by them. We have a ton of recap from that tournament, but also, and I know you're going to dive into it, there's been some roster moves. The league has not been sleeping as we start heading towards Texas.
I mean, you thought the red was for Valentine's Day, but it was definitely for our major. It was for our Major 2 victors. Atlanta Faze, the red and black scheme going on here for the boys. I mean, you got to celebrate it a little bit. They were clearly the best team at this tournament. They deserved to take it home. They did a phenomenal job against some really good teams. They also clutched up in moments where it mattered a lot. And obviously you mentioned the roster changes, which we'll cover a little bit afterwards. Unfortunately, Nikki and I had recorded like a slight recap of the major and of the top 4 teams, which I think are the most interesting. So I do want to keep it somewhat brief because that didn't get released. There were some shorts that floated around, but it was, I mean, back to front, just an incredible event. So like Boston did a really good job. The venue looked sick.
I was there.
Like no delays across the board. You were there
for the first day.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you show up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, beast mode. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I was up there visiting some friends.
Yeah, but I mean, great event. First of all, Method's retirement speech thrown in the middle of Championship Sunday. Really, really sad, but also really well done production wise. Like everything there. Yeah. Honestly, at this point, he's been pretty clear about like making this decision on his own. It was time to go, and like when being subbed in, he kind of knew that it was his time. And he'll be great at content, but he's an absolute legend around the league. He's done so much for the CDL, so much for the scene, but it's sad to see him go.
Do you think he's joining Scump?
Yeah, I mean they'll be together for a long time. They're gonna do some funny shit together too.
Yeah. I love their watch parties. I think they're awesome. I hope they keep doing them.
They're incredible. Hopefully they don't move to YouTube because you lose the Twitch co-stream situation. So that would be a huge problem because they're renegotiating the YouTube deal allegedly. Big problem there. I would hate that.
Well, now that Ryan White's not there, it's definitely not happening.
Yeah, I can't tell you the future there. Viewership will certainly drop if that happens. Now, let's dive into the important stuff, which is Atlanta Faze winning this major. Again, like they slammed Toronto Ultra. They skirted by Breach a little bit first round.
Why do you gotta call me out like that? Like we were just getting warmed up. You didn't need to go that mean, that aggressive this early.
Yeah, I mean maybe not, but we've seen this team in the upper bracket a lot, and you deserve to be called out for this one because one, it's an absolute bodying of Ultra. They did clutch up the ROKKR series. Some parties would say that ROKKR threw that a little bit. But at the same time, Atlanta Faze had the clutch gene all weekend. But coming back 5-3 in S&D is like incredible in Map 5. They did a phenomenal job there. And then the Thieves series looked a little close at first in the final. But I think like just across the board, the clutch factor for Atlanta Faze all weekend was there. And it just showed out even more in that final. They got it done with Slasher, the new addition. Like this is a momentous win for them, if anything.
Do we like? I'm sure we talked about this before, but do we like best of 7 instead of best of 9?
I mean, for not going to bed at like midnight, if there's delays, then yeah. But otherwise, it's a little bit of a weird situation to be in. Yeah, I think. I wish there was a better advantage for upper bracket team coming down. I wish it was 2 best of 5s, to be honest. But
I think that's the right thing. I think. Yeah, I know they give them, preferential picks and all that stuff, so you get to pick the maps, and they give you enough of an advantage, but it's like, I don't know, man. Not losing a single game the whole time, it feels like there should be more of a reward there. I like the idea of 2 best of 5s if you are, if you get beat the first time.
Yeah, I think the community would agree with you across the board. Like, if you come from the lower bracket, you should have to win 2 best-of-5s with a little reset in the middle. It gives you top team a chance to regain the mental if they lose the first best-of-5. Lower bracket team has a chance to absolutely build off of that. So it's a better format in my opinion. But you know what? This is what we're stuck with, so we got to deal with it for the rest of the year.
It's tough when you try and fit 4 matches into one day.
Yeah, it is really rough. I don't know. The best-of-7 is long at the end of the day, but at least Faze got it done in 6. We'll say that much. Yeah. 4-2 victory there. Now, I mean, you touched on it. Your team got absolutely slammed across the board. They win their first game, but then it was, you know.
Before we jump to my shitty team, can we first talk about the Thieves and just what a impressive performance? Like, this is a team that we were sitting on here before the tournament started, and I was convinced that they needed to trade out their entire team. That this team was washed up. Now, of course, never doubt land Octane, but like, man, like this is a team that I didn't. There is virtually no way you could have convinced me that Thieves were going to make the final of this tournament.
I gotta say, you're nuts for thinking that.
The way that they were performing before showing up to this tournament, like, yeah, they were in the upper group, but losing to OpTic 3-2, and then come down Mutineers rollover team. Congratulate! Like, honestly, that's the biggest story of the whole tournament is what a booster of morale the Florida Mutineers were. But then smoke the Subliners, which is a team that, you know, had just won the previous major, great on land, absolutely destroy and rip my Ultra, which, you know, maybe start showing up for majors. Ultra, please do something on land, please. Come back. It's impossible to beat the same team twice. Put it to OpTic 3-1.
Choke job by OpTic.
Absolutely smoke ROKKR, right? Again, really hard to beat the same team.
Demoralized team.
Yeah, and then unfortunately can't, you know, to be honest, they already had 2 games on Sunday, a third game. Like, that's just too much for anyone.
I have to say you're a little blasted for counting Thieves out of this one. Like, to be honest, I mean, you got to remember. You have to remember Major 4 of last year. Pretty counted out. That team put it together on land. This team is just very good at performing in the venue. They do an extremely good job of playing well together on land. Like, that goes without saying. I think they're also better players on land, and Octane showed up and played out of his mind on Sunday.
He really did.
You can't discredit that at all.
The
other part that you're forgetting about this is that they played with a substitute for like half of the qualifiers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a tough situation to be in, and obviously, yeah, they lose to OpTic, but to regain and beat them later on, which, I mean, watch the ladder if you're OpTic Texas, first of all. Like, unbelievable to lose a hard point that way, especially in a series-clinching moment. Yeah. But also an insane play by Kenny to even take the ladder. Like, every time you make that rotation to top AC, somebody's going to be watching the ladder.
Yeah.
And he was like, nah, I'm sending it. Like, it's late game. We have to do this. Pops a 2-piece. Absolutely changed the game entirely. But, like, it's plays like that end up making or breaking your major. Like, it goes without saying. And I don't know. They're incredible.
I guess what I'm asking is, do you think this performance in the major is going to translate to Major 3 and the qualifiers for that?
Absolutely.
Really?
This team only plays well with momentum, or not only plays well, but they play very well when they start building momentum.
So you would
I think their qualifier
you would now say LA Thieves top 3 team,
top 4 for sure, top 3 probably. I would say.
Okay.
I mean, I think like Faze definitively the best team in the game right now.
Yeah.
That goes without saying.
You're not going to hear any argument from me on that.
Yeah, I would put. We got to see how OpTic looks with the roster change they made. Before I make any calls there, but I think they're going to be better. Honestly.
And you're just dismissing Subliners completely.
I'm not dismissing them. I think they're a good land team. I think they had some rough performances this weekend, and there's a lot of fixable errors, but at the same time, like, still very good at hardpoint, definitively. And I think they'll show up. Like, I think they'll have better performances than this major. I don't think it's any reason to count them out, but I think they're like 5 right now, probably.
5?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do we'll finish this off with your rankings because
we're not doing that.
Like, I put Ultra at like 5. I think
Ultra blast, like Ultra blasted on land, dude.
Luckily, all qualifiers are still online.
Yeah, that's a good thing for you, huh? I mean, I think the other team. I guess there's two more teams we're talking. Well, we didn't really get through the Ultra thing. I'm going to keep it brief.
It's not even getting worth over.
I'm going to keep it brief. My concern is the same concern I had last year when Stanley was on ROKKR, which is that he did like end up costing a lot on land, and it seems like that happened again here. Now at the same time, like Scrappy didn't play well day 2 or day 3, I guess, when they were going through that 06 situation. That was not pretty at all. His performances, I mean, across the board, the team just got kind of blown out of the water. So they looked broken by Faze, to be honest. I think ROKKR had a really good weekend. They showed what they're capable of with this roster. Cammy showed up. Afro and Bance were arguably the best sub duo the entire weekend outside of aBeZy and Simp. And honestly, at times they looked better than them. That's the reason I stuck at OpTic so strong in the upper bracket, was because of Afro and Bance. They were making them extremely uncomfortable. They both had like 1.6 KDs going into map 3. It was just nuts across the board. And then,
I mean, yeah, Bance was an absolute animal, and so was Afro.
Dude, Afro was an animal. Bance was just picking up the slack on the back. Like, they were trading the hell out of each other.
The amount of damage that Afro was inflicting was ridiculous,
disgusting. Yeah, I mean, the guy was everywhere at once. Everything everywhere, and this all is at once, if you will.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie.
I've heard it's great. So what I will say is, this is kind of the ROKKR team that we're very much like lukewarm on them. They're like, their highs are going to be incredibly high, and their lows. 4. I'm just saying, this is a ROKKR team that I think, if Afro keeps playing that way, top 4.
You can't depend too much on him. I think it's on Bance and Cammy to play really well for the rest of the year.
But that's why he's like the difference maker. Like, if he keeps playing well, that team's fucking top 4 for sure. But when he doesn't play as well, that's where you start inviting in varying levels of.
I mean, Afro very rarely has bad series. Let's just throw that out there. So that's a good thing for them. It's a very steady way to keep them in the middle of the table and definitely guarantee them champs now. But same time, those guys show up on land, dangerous team. It's possible that Attach gets his slice of the pie this year again. So, I mean, you know, the trope in Call of Duty, that's just kind of how it goes. Last team here to really talk about is OpTic Texas, who lost 3-0 to ROKKR in the upper bracket, beat Breach 3-0 in a series that was honestly fairly close enough for them to lose it. Dashy made one of the most incredible hardpoint plays of all time to secure map 1, and from there they just kind of rolled with the momentum. But it was iffy, to say the least. And then they should have beaten Thieves, pretty definitively. There's a lot that went on there. They threw the S&D. They absolutely tossed the control. Shotzzy made one of the worst plays I've seen him make in his career. It was overly aggressive. There was no reason for it, and it did end up costing them because a lot of people were caught out of position after he died. They lose the control on that, and then finally that ladder play in hardpoint really just absolutely costed them the series. Now, I still think they performed well, but I also think they realized that their ceiling is higher without a certain player moving forward. So
let's talk about it.
I mean, we'll see what they're capable of now.
It's
going to be nuts, but this is an insane roster in my opinion to put together. Because one, I guess, let's talk roster changes, and we'll hop into it with that team specifically. Because if you're placing top 4 and making a change, it's got to be for someone good. This is one of the only times I think I've ever seen OpTic dip into a challengers or an amateur player situation. They are typically notorious for picking up notable players and kind of boosting their career and offering them that platform to grow themselves individually, but also play for the most notable team in Call of Duty. So illey's out, and Ghosty from Challengers is in. I think he just won the Boston event. This kid is pretty cracked across the board. Also talks a lot of trash, very good for the league. I'm interested to see how he fits in this team. I would assume he's taking up a flex role situation for them, considering they have their sub duo pretty set in stone.
Why do you think they got rid of illey?
I think
what is it about his play that
it was inconsistent across the board. He wasn't having that good of a year, and sometimes in S&D he was a difference maker with the sniper rifle in hand and things like that. There were moments where illey really popped off for them and won them maps, but I think for them to reach their ceiling, they needed to get rid of him. And unfortunate as it is, illey is a super good player, and he can really be a difference maker in the comms, in the mentality, and the strategy of the game, but I think they just were looking for they're looking to be the best they possibly can, and you can't really knock them for that. Like, they're going into challengers, they're doing something they're taking a risk here for sure. Well, like, if this backfires, it's a terrible look for the org.
I will say this is an OpTic team that is really struggling to find their continuity, right? Like, this is a team surprisingly kind of finished first place out of the last one, and yeah, like, I mean, it's hard to defend illey when he's getting a negative 0.57 against the ROKKR, and it's hard to defend.
He got brutalized.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to defend, right? You're not going to sit here and hear me defend them too much, but like, I don't know, man. This is kind of a team that needs to fucking find some continuity and put together a team that they believe in, and so I hope this is it. But I don't know, man.
I mean, Ghosty had a 1.3 throughout the entire Boston Challengers LAN.
Yeah.
So, like, if that says anything, he ended up winning it. I mean, he's pretty good. There's also another change going on in the OpTic camp, allegedly. So, I guess Hook's been playing on gyro aim, which, I mean, if you saw him shooting absolute windies at people during the last major, you kind of understand why now. And if Hook has his shot back, this team is pretty final. So, like,
so you think Shotzzy, Ghosty, Hook, and Dashy, you like who you're going into battle with?
Yeah, as an OpTic fan, I'm extremely optimistic and also, like, somewhat on edge, right? Like, you don't want to be in a situation where you're picking up a Challengers player. It's a little bit of a scary situation, but, like,
I'm nervous for you. I'm not going to lie. I'm not as bullish as you are.
I'm pretty bullish. I don't think they would have done this by accident. Like, this was a calculated move. OpTic Texas is going to make the calculated move.
It's just funny. They keep trying to figure. They first get rid of Dashy. They're about to bring in Pred. Then Pred doesn't come in. They keep Dashy. Scump retires. Like,
well, Ray's not their coach anymore too.
I know. It's just like it's a team that feels like they don't have, like, they're searching for a lot of different things to find a solution. And
well, I think this is kind of like their end here. Like, this is where it ends.
I mean, like, look, we're going into Major 3. They're heading home for this major, so that bodes well.
Home major. That would be pretty cool for the kid to win.
Happened last year. And you've got 2 more majors after this, and then the postseason. Like, the season's fucking short to a degree. Like, it goes from December into June. They don't have much time to fucking mess around anymore.
I mean, they've got some points. They finished top 4, and, like, if they think they can get better, I have a lot of faith in them to know what they need to do.
Yeah, I guess my point is they can't keep fucking with shit kind of like after this major.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
If they want to win.
I don't think they will. I think they'll give this one time to adjust a little bit. But, like, they kind of knew how that roster was going to work with illey. And then, like, when they brought in Hook. So, it's a little different. There's a few other changes around the league. I think some of them more major than others. We'll start at the bottom here. This one's a little bit sideways in my opinion. Las Vegas Legion dropped Prolute. He is a free agent at this point, headed back to Challengers, unfortunately for him. They bring in 2Real, who had his shot last year with the Florida Mutineers. I think in some regard kind of wasted it. He didn't look really good with that team, but also, like, not a great situation to be thrown into at the same time. It was weird, man, because him and Brack were so good together, and then they split them up, and he just kind of landed in a rough situation. He also got a little bodied, but, like, he's been tearing it up in Challengers, so I guess it's time to see if he can tear it up in the Pro League again.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Legion is a team that can't really go wrong by mixing it up. I think Clayster's actually been a good thing for them.
Very good at finding Challengers players, too.
Yeah, and so, to me, this is in a similar way to oh god, now I'm blanking. Was former Atlanta Faze, and now he's with
Arcitys.
Yeah, similar to Arcitys. Thank you. Just mental block there. This is the kind of part of their career where they need to be mentoring younger talent to help them achieve future greatness. And so, I love bringing in a player for this team, and I am, very excited to see how they can perform.
To be fair, Clay's already done that. He did kind of raise Simp and aBeZy on United, so he's done something for the league already that is honestly a little bit menacing. So
could two real be the next?
no,
He might.
I don't think so.
Too fast. 2 chains, 2 real.
Continuing up the ladder a little bit, and a team that I think actually got significantly better for this game, Florida Mutineers drop Major Maniac. They drop Dav Patty too.
Yep.
They pick up Capsidal. They pick up Fellow. They sub out Vickle, so now he's the substitute, and they bring back Brack into the starting lineup. This team, completely different team. They're going to have a lot more pace. The only remaining player is Havoc. I think they're going to be a lot more competitive, and I honestly think they're going to start pushing top 8. And they might push a major team out of contention. And that would be really interesting to see.
I love your optimism for this team. We all sat here last year and picked them to finish dead last, or at least you and Nikita did. Now they've just traded in a whole new team. I have no reason to believe that this team will be any better. I just don't. And so I'm going to continue to fade the shit out of them. I think that they're going to lose. They might win the first game this upcoming weekend, but because of obviously the honeymoon period. But
I mean, it's Faze.
Look, one honeymoon period. Usually a roster update's always good for one game, but I have no plans of betting on the Mutineers.
My only issue with this roster is that it's extremely young. Leadership's got to come from the coaching staff at this point. So,
do you know the coach?
It used to be Ricky. I don't know who it is anymore.
Okay.
I'm not sure at this point who the Florida coach is, but I think they could be pretty good. They might just be playing 8s out there, which would be really, really interesting to watch.
I mean, there was a team that, they're kind of like the team. They're kind of like BDS of the LEC. They're just going to go.
Okay, well,
they're just going to go ham, go for kills, and probably miss a lot of strategy. And it might work and catch one team off guard, but it's not going to be a repeatable winning strategy.
Well, in a game where the major objective of the game is to kill people, I think
you still have to not get killed.
I mean, in some regard, you could argue that it doesn't matter if you get killed or not, as long as someone has your trait. So
no, it matters.
Yeah, sometimes pop 2 or 3 pieces is probably more impactful than just getting 1 kill. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean,
all right. So
all right. Final change.
So you're putting the Mutineers in top 4. We got it.
Top 4? No. Top 9? Yes. Top 8? Maybe. Boston Breach. Obviously, Methods retires during the major.
Yep.
And that was with, who's waiting in the wings, but Beans into the starting roster. One, this guy's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I am so excited to see what he tweets during tournaments and stuff like that. He is so funny.
Or just
on Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, he's unbelievable. He's tweeting he said, "Now that I'm in the Pro League, can we GA the Vaznev just immediately?" Which is hilarious. But also, extremely good. This guy's cracked. The Boston Academy team has been pretty good this year, and they have Doug on their roster, who's sometimes putting up, bad performances, sometimes good performances, but he is a really good mentor for a lot of Challengers players. Dashy came up through the Doug Censor Martin system. Ghosty also came up through the Doug Censor Martin system. He's responsible for a lot of good players in the league, and Beans is now a part of that if he is what people say he is. I think this Boston team only improves from here, to be honest. They'll be slightly better, in my opinion.
My biggest concern is they were our team that was already pretty good online, so I'm not worried about their qualifying.
I think they'll be better on land now.
That is where I'm concerned, right? And all due respect to Mr. Beans and the way he was brought up, land's a different beast, especially when you're going up against the likes of the Faze, the Thieves, not the Ultra, but these other teams. It's just a different beast, and so while I still think that they'll be great in the qualifying, I'm going to reserve judgment, and please remind myself of this when we get to the Major 3, because undoubtedly I'll probably forget and get really excited by their strong performance in qualifiers. I'm going to be fading them in the Major.
I mean, it's interesting because it doesn't necessarily correct the issues of being good online versus being good on LAN, and I think you would have to make a lot of changes for that to be the case, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just kind of subbing out a guy that has been pretty good for them. But I don't think there's anybody else to sub out. Like, Nero popped off for them on land. He absolutely carried them through some maps. Vivid was unbelievably clutch. Awakening is obviously an extremely good player. I think this team's going to be fast. Like, they're going to play well.
Some people might have said that the Boston Breach gave Faze their most contended matchup in the last major.
No, it was definitely Minnesota ROKKR. That was an incredible match. The choke was unbelievable, though, at the end of the game. So disappointing to see. I had high hopes for ROKKR.
But look, I mean, Breach comes in, they 3-1 Surge, which, Surge needs a fucking sub. They 3-0 Guerrillas, which was, pretty impressive. And then they lose 3-0 to OpTic. But, Breach had a good performance. Bummed to hear about Method, or bummed to see Methods go. But,
I'm excited for this wave.
I
think he stepped down to the right person.
I will be fading Breach come the next major.
All right, fair enough. Well, with that being said, we can talk about the next major, at least the qualifiers of it. First weekend coming up starts on Friday, February 17th, leading us into the OpTic Major. Like Lovelock, what do we got this week? I can kick it off if you want. You're not going to like what I have to say. I'll tell you that much. But
I already know what you're going to say.
No, you don't. You have no clue.
All right, go ahead, kick it off.
Las Vegas Legion beat LA Thieves to kick off the weekend at 3.75 odds.
Why would I not like that? I love that.
You gotta like it. You gotta like the honeymoon phase. Everything going into this.
Absolutely.
Thieves are a little overvalued coming off their land victory. 100%. They know they can do it on land. Well, not land victory. They came in second, but they know they can get it done on land. They're not really worried about where they end up in the standings as long as they win a certain amount of games. I think Legion take it to them. Game 1.
I love this pick out of you. You're alluding to my original question, though, from earlier in the podcast, which is, are the Thieves, should we take the way that they played in Major 2 and carry it forward? And the answer that you're saying now is no. I love seeing Legion 3.6. I also love the plus 1.5. You can still get plus 1.5 at 2.36, so that's just kind of assuming it goes to 5 or they win. So that's great value. You're not going to hear anything on the contrary from me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The plus 1.5 is pretty good. I would agree with that. To bet it to go 5, but also be covered by the Legion winning, I think is a decent situation to be in. Yeah. I also really do like OpTic Texas minus 1.5 against LAG to kick off their major.
Sure.
2.1 odds there. Pretty solid. Can't complain about that one.
I mean, for some likes, and these are bordering on loves, right? Which is, I mean, shit. Why would you not take LA Legion or Las Vegas Legion against Ultra at 5.07? I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I'm just so.
I mean, that's bold.
I am so disappointed in the Ultra. It is so to piggyback off that. I think Boston Breach at 2.43, honeymoon period, good team coming in. Pretty good shout. I fucking love that. I mean, again, that's not a like. That's just a love. 2.43 for the money line? Absolutely.
It's a good shout.
And honestly, do I want to dabble on a little bit of a minus 1.5 at 3.92? Yeah, I do. I really do. And in a similar fashion, I don't know why the Subliners are a 1.50 favorite over the Minnesota ROKKR. You can get Minnesota ROKKR at 2.47.
Yeah, I would throw that in love. The Minnesota ROKKR money line there. I think the odds are way too good, and they're playing really, really well together. Like, that goes without saying after their last major performance. Worth throwing out there.
And put a taste on the minus 1.5 at 4.23.
Worth throwing out there that they're even odds with Surge, and I actually would take Surge at those odds.
What do you mean? Oh.
1.83.
Oh, yeah.
I'm taking Surge there probably, or at least, I mean, like.
How? Surge are terrible right now. What have they done to make you think that they're worth betting on?
They're good at hard points, though.
Okay.
It's going to be a minus 1.5 if they win it. Like, they're not winning the Game 5 search. This is going to have to be 1-3-4
well, I was gonna
for them to win this.
Then you should just take the minus 1.5 at 2.97.
I think the over 4.5 is actually the go here at 2.37. I actually think this series gets pretty mixy, especially online.
Mixy.
It's going to get interesting, that's for sure. If Surge can pull out of S&D for the first time in their life, it gets a little bit fun. I also want to throw, Florida Mutineers out there, 4-3 odds to beat New York Subliners at the end of the weekend with a flying roster coming straight at the face. That's incredible. And I think the plus 1.5 at 2.6 is a lock, in my opinion.
That would be the honeymoon of all honeymoons. I think, and I already touched on it, I do think you should put 0.25 units on the Florida Mutineers money line against the Atlanta Faze. I think in that matchup, you get it at 5.44. This is a team that is brand new. Faze has no idea what's happening. There's not going to be a lot of scouting to be able to have on that. To me, it's just ripe for an upset. And again, it has no bearing or impact on the long-term ramifications of this major. But for a fucking flyer, I like it.
Do you like it more than Legion beating Ultra? Similar odds there. If you had to pick one, this is how we'll close this out. If you had to pick one, which way are you leaning? Who gets the upset this weekend?
Legion, because FaZe is a better team than Ultra. So
I think it's way more likely that Mutineers beats FaZe.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think Ultra lose that to Vegas, especially after Vegas already played earlier in the weekend.
You take 544. I'll take 507.
All right, fair enough. We'll leave it square and we'll revisit this next week, next Monday night when we
I feel like one of those two teams. I feel like one of those two teams is losing though. Like one of those games that someone's.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's the Call of Duty League, dude. What are you talking about?
Absolutely. And then I think for as a lock goes, this is.
You don't need to have one.
This is kind of boring, but I do think that FaZe just shows up and beats the shit out of Thieves again. And so I actually really like the FaZe at -1.5 at 2.22.
That's fair play. I mean, I can't really disagree with that. I think it's a decent shout. I would say
you're online now again. Thieves, I just fade when it comes to online. Like, I've learned my lesson. They're just elite on LAN, but online, not as great. And so I like having that matchup again. And, I do think Thieves will probably try and come out and bang their chest, but I just think FaZe kind of is in their head, knows their game plan, and just will kind of come through and beat them.
I think over 4.5, there's a little bit more solid in my opinion. It'll be an interesting match across the board. I think Thieves show up, to be honest. The value is not on FaZe unless you're taking the -1.5. That's for sure.
I'm taking the -1.5.
And anything can happen in the Call of Duty League. And if you want to hear about anything happening.
You know who's not winning this weekend?
Who?
The Ravens.
Don't count them out.
They're
good for an upset every now and again.
They're fucking out.
If you want to hear more about the Call of Duty League and some of the betting that can go on behind the scenes, anything along those lines, feel free to hit a follow on Twitter at Bo3 Network and hit that like and subscribe button down below if you liked what you heard. Or if you're a return viewer, we have a few of you, stop by, pop in, just hit the red button down below. It's a really nice button. And our Discord will be down in the description below as well. Join the conversation down there. A lot of smart people in there, smarter than us, that's for sure. Nobody's smarter than me, to be honest. But they do have statistical takes more than I do.
They have, some would call it educated.
Yeah, less flying by the handles, by the seat of your pants, if you will. Yeah. No, but it's a great community, growing slowly. Join it, have some fun, and we'll see you next week. See who got the win on the bet between me and Chris. Peace out.
Toodaloo.